Hey there, and welcome back. Tonight, we're leaving behind the cold huts and frozen fields of medieval Europe and journeying thousands of years further into the past, to a land of blazing skies, wide rivers, and endless sand. We're stepping into ancient Egypt, but not into the painted halls of palaces or the golden tombs of kings. Instead, you're waking as an ordinary villager, someone who lives and labors by the Nile, someone whose life depends on the rhythms of water and sun. Before we begin, take just a moment for yourself. Settle in somewhere comfortable. Dim the lights, maybe let a quiet fan stir the air for that soft background hum. This is your time to relax, and if you enjoy these journeys we take together, I'd love for you to leave a like on this video. It helps more than you might think. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. It is always fascinating to see people joining from across the world, some just settling down, others maybe just waking up. And of course, if you'd like to follow along with more nights like this, feel free to subscribe, but only if it feels right for you. Now, let's slip away together, back into a world of reeds and desert wines, of clay and water, of heat and shadow. Close your eyes, if you'd like, and drift across time. The sand shifts, the river flows endlessly on, and you awaken in the shadow of the Nile, your eyes open to dim morning light filtering through a small opening. The walls around you are made of sun-dried mud brick, baked hard in the heat and stacked with care. They are simple, but they hold the coolness of the night. You know it will not last long. The roof above you is flat, beams of palm trunk covered with reeds and plastered with clay. In the hottest season, you sometimes sleep up there beneath the stars, where a faint breeze eases the air. But now you're indoors, lying on a mat woven of reeds. It is rough against your skin, not soft, but your body is used to it. Your home is one room, small and crowded. In one corner is a grinding stone for a flour. In another, baskets hold grain. Clay jars line the wall, filled with water drawn from the river. Tools hang from pegs, a hoe, a flint-toothed sickle, a coil of rope. This is everything you need, nothing more. The faint smell of smoke lingers from last night's fire, mixed with the earthy scent of clay walls and the sharp tang of dried fish. It is not unpleasant, only familiar. You shift on your mat, and the house around you stirs to life. From outside, the village is waking. A donkey brays stubbornly. Chickens scratch and cluck in the dust. A child laughs, high and quick, then cries out as another chases after him. The calls of women drift through the air, carrying jars balanced on their shoulders, voices already rising in chatter. And beneath it all, steady and endless, is the Nile. The river flows softly in the distance, the eternal breath of Egypt. You hear the faint lap of water against the bank, the whisper of reeds shifting with the current. The Nile is the reason you live, the reason this village exists, the reason your crops grow. Without it, there would only be sand, silence, and death. Farther away, you catch the creak of a wooden water wheel turned by oxen. It groans with every rotation, scooping water into channels that snake across the fields. Irrigation has already begun. The sounds weave together, a kind of morning symphony, ordinary, steady, alive. And you are one note within it. You step outside into the pale glow of early morning. The air is still cool, though the promise of heat already hums in the sky. You walk with others toward the Nile, bare feet pressing into the dark, damp soil near the water's edge. Crouching, you cup your hands and splash your face. The water is cool, carrying the faint, green scent of reeds. It wakes you fully. though you know that by midday the same water will feel warm against your skin. Nearby, women bend over baskets of laundry, slapping cloth against smooth stones, voices rising in song. A fisherman pulls in his net, shaking his head at the meager catch. Children chase each other along the bank, their shouts mixing with the rush of water. The river is both life and uncertainty. Some years, the floods bring abundance, grain, beer, bread. Other years, they fail, and there is hunger. Each day begins with that knowledge, quiet, but always present. Back in your home, the first task is bread. Your wife crouches by the grinding stone, pushing a heavy slab back and forth over the grain, crushing it into flour. The motion is steady, relentless, hard on the knees and back. Hours of work, just for the coarse flour you need. Even then, it carries bits of grit from the stone. You've grown used to the crunch of sand in every bite. You tend to the fire. It smoulders inside a clay oven, fed with dried dung and straw. The smoke stings your eyes, curling into the air, but soon the flat loaves begin to bake. Their smell fills the small house, warm and earthy. Bread, simple and coarse, is the heart of every meal. Beside it, there will be beer, thick, cloudy, nourishing, more food than drink. Sometimes onions, sometimes beans. If you are lucky, fish from the river. That is the table of a villager in Egypt. No honeyed cakes, no roasted meats, no sweet dates and wine. Those belong to the priests, the scribes, the wealthy. For you, there is bread, beer, and what the river grants. Enough to live. As you eat, the sun climbs higher. The cool of morning begins to slip away, replaced by heat that presses against your skin, filling the air, making every breath heavier. The mud brick walls still hold a little shade, but soon you must go out, into the fields, into the work that sustains you, the labor that never ends. You tie a strip of linen around your head. You gather your tools. You step outside, into the glare. The ground already warms beneath your bare feet. The horizon wavers faintly, a shimmer of sand and light. This is your life. Simple, unchanging, bound to the rhythm of river and sun. Each day begins the same, and yet each day demands your strength anew. You glance once more toward the Nile, its waters glinting in the light. Then you walk on, into the work and the heat of another day in ancient Egypt. And so your morning begins, not with luxury, not with gold or comfort, but with bread, with the river, with the rising of the sun. As we continue, we'll walk with you into the fields, into the heart of the labor, into the true weight of what it meant to live and endure in this world thousands of years ago. The sun rises, and with it, the weight of your day. Already, the light spills over the horizon in a pale wash of gold. It floods the village in a glow that softens the clay walls of homes, turns the river to a band of liquid silver, and stretches shadows long and thin across the dust. For a moment, in this early hour, there is still beauty, still a cool breath drifting from the Nile, but soon, very soon, that coolness will burn away, replaced by a heavy, unrelenting heat. And so, you walk, you join the stream of villagers moving toward the fields. Men and boys carry hoes across their shoulders, ropes coiled at their waists, baskets in hand. Donkeys plod beside them, their ears twitching lazily, their hooves pressing into the soft ground. The voices of your neighbors mingle with the braying of animals, the laughter of children running to keep up, the rhythmic creak of a water wheel already turning in the distance. Step by step, the earth changes beneath your feet. Near the river, it is dark, damp, rich with silt left behind by the flood. The soil crumbles softly, moist and fertile. But walk a little farther, and the land hardens, turning pale and dry, cracked by sun and wind. This is the edge, the fragile boundary, where life ends and desert begins. You know, without the river's mercy, there would be nothing here but endless sand, stretching farther than the eye can see. You arrive at your plot, a patch of land divided by small irrigation channels that glisten faintly in the morning light. The smell of wet earth rises from them, sharp and clean. Water drips slowly from the banks, soaking into the soil. A line of palm trees sways in the faint breeze, their fronds rattling softly like dry paper. Birds rise in startled bursts as you approach, their cries sharp against the quiet hum of morning. You set down your basket, take up your hoe, and begin. The work is slow, heavy, repetitive. The blade bites into the soil, breaking clods apart, turning them, shaping neat furrows that will hold seed. The sun climbs higher with every stroke, each movement of your body blending with the rhythm of those beside you. A line of men stretches across the field, backs bent, arms moving in steady arcs. The sound of hoes striking earth echoes like a heartbeat, matched by the low murmur of voices as workers call out to one another. Sweat forms quickly on your brow. It drips down your temple, slides along your cheek, and soaks into the linen wrapped around your head. The heat thickens, the air presses against your skin, heavy and still. The Nile is only a short walk away, but here in the field, it feels distant, as if the coolness of water belongs to another world. You breathe slowly, pacing yourself, knowing the day will be long. Nearby, a boy tends the irrigation channel, his feet sinking into the mud as he shifts stones to guide the water. He whistles tunelessly as he works, his bare skin glistening in the light. You glance up now and then, watching the slow stream trickle into the furrows you've made, watching the earth darken as it drinks. Without water, the seed will fail. With water, it may grow tall and strong, enough to feed your family, enough to carry you through another year. The seeds themselves are simple: barley, emmer wheat, lentils, sometimes flax. You reach into your basket and scatter them carefully along the furrows, each handful light, almost careless, though you know every grain matters. Behind you, another man follows with a wooden rake, pulling soil gently over the seeds, hiding them from birds, pressing them into the safety of earth. Soon, rows stretch across the field, neat and full of promise. The hours slip by slowly, the sun burning brighter, harsher. Shadows shorten, press close to your feet. The chatter of the men grows quieter, replaced by the sound of heavy breathing, the occasional grunt of effort, the slap of a donkey's tail against flies. The heat is a weight now, a physical thing that settles on your shoulders and clings to your back. The smell of sweat, of damp soil, of trampled grass rises thick around you. Still, you work. From time to time, you pause, straightening your spine, rolling your shoulders, wiping the sweat from your brow. You lift your gaze toward the horizon, across the river. The desert glitters, dunes glowing pale and sharp under the merciless light. Beyond them, silence and emptiness. Here, within the thin green band of the Nile, life clings, fragile but fierce. You feel both small and vital at once, one worker among many, yet part of a rhythm that stretches back centuries, unbroken, unchanging. Your father worked this soil, his father before him. And one day, your son will do the same. As the sun rises toward its peak, you share a short break with your neighbors. Together, you sit on the edge of the field, legs stretched into the dust, passing around a jar of beer. It is warm, thick, sour with fermentation, but it fills your stomach, eases your thirst, restores your strength. A flat round of bread is shared, torn into pieces, dipped into a paste of beans. You chew slowly, the grit of stone still present in every bite, the crunch of sand between your teeth. It is not pleasant, but it is filling, and that is enough. You laugh softly at a neighbor's joke, smile as a boy splashes water onto his dusty legs, sigh as the moment of rest lingers. Then, as always, the work calls you back. The afternoon presses on, heavier now. The sun burns from directly overhead, the light unshaded, merciless. Your skin tingles with heat. The soil itself radiates warmth, rising in waves that blur the horizon. Birds have gone silent, retreating into the shadows of palms. Even the donkeys droop, ears hanging low, tails flicking lazily. Still, the hose strike earth. Still, the water flows through channels. Still, you bend, lift, scatter, rake. The rhythm does not stop. And yet, there is beauty, even here. A sudden gust of wind stirs the palm fronds, carrying with it the cool, sweet scent of the river. For a breath, the heat lifts, replaced by freshness, fleeting but real. You pause to savor it, eyes closing, lungs filling with the gift. Then it is gone, and the work resumes. At last, the sun begins its slow decline. The light softens, shifting from blinding white to deep gold. Shadows lengthen again, stretching across the fields like fingers. The air cools, just slightly, enough to ease the ache in your muscles, enough to make every breath a little lighter. The field before you is marked with neat rows of furrows, damp with water, sown with seed. It is good, it is enough. You gather your tools, lift your basket, and join the others on the path back to the village. Your body aches with weariness, your skin sticky with sweat, your feet caked with dust and mud. And yet, there is a quiet pride in your chest, a satisfaction that comes from labor well done. The land is sown, the water flows, and the Nile has blessed you for another day. As you walk, the sky deepens into a wash of orange and red. The sun sinks low, casting its reflection on the river in a shimmering path. Birds return to their roosts, their cries sharp and clear. The village comes into view, smoke rising from small fires, children running to greet the men returning home. The smell of roasting fish drifts through the air, mingling with the sweet tang of onions, the bitter edge of herbs. You step inside your home, setting down your tools. The mat awaits, the clay jars, the grinding stone, the oven's faint glow. Your wife tends the meal, your children chatter, your neighbors call greetings through the narrow street. Life is simple and hard and constant. And yet, as night falls and the air cools, there is peace in knowing you have endured another day. Beneath the sun, by the Nile, the sun has dipped low, sliding slowly toward the horizon, its harsh brilliance softening into a muted, golden glow. After a long day beneath its weight, the cooling air feels almost miraculous, like a gentle hand resting on your shoulders. The fields you left behind glisten faintly, still damp from the irrigation channels. Across the sky, flocks of birds shift in loose patterns, their wings flashing in the fading light as they return to their nests. The Nile itself glows a deep bronze, rippling with the last touches of day. Your home greets you as you step through the narrow lanes of the village. The mud brick walls breathe warmth, the faint scent of clay mixing with the smoke of cooking fires. Inside, the air is close, but the shadows are soft. Children chase one another just beyond the doorway, their feet slapping the packed earth, their laughter carrying like bells in the twilight. A neighbor calls out a greeting, voice light and unhurried, as he sets down a bundle of reeds he carried from the river. The world feels slower now, less demanding, though your body still aches from the labor of the fields. Inside, the familiar rhythm of evening unfolds. Your wife kneels near the grinding stone, her arms moving in a steady circle as she crushes grain into flour. The scraping sound fills the room, harsh and rhythmic, punctuated by the dull thud of a pestle breaking beans into paste. The air is thick with smells: fresh bread baking in the clay oven, pungent onions, the sharp tang of garlic, and beneath it all, the faint musty sweetness of beer brewing in jars. You lower yourself onto the reed mat, your limbs heavy, your chest loosening as you allow the day to release its hold. Your eldest child presses into your side, chattering quickly about some small adventure: a lizard caught in the street, a broken pot, a game played with neighbors. Their hands are dusty, their cheeks flushed from play. You nod, listening, smiling faintly, even as fatigue pulls at you. Beside them, your youngest tugs at your hand, placing a rough wooden toy in your palm, carved in the shape of a tiny ox. It is crude, its legs uneven, but their pride shines in their eyes. You let the weight of it rest in your hand, running your thumb across its surface, offering a quiet word of praise that makes their grin widen. The meal is simple, but it carries the comfort of familiarity. Flat bread, round and crisp at the edges, soft in the middle. A stew of lentils and onions, seasoned with herbs plucked from the garden. Perhaps a fish from the Nile, roasted over the fire, its skin charred, its flesh flaking easily beneath your fingers. You eat slowly, tearing bread, dipping it into the stew, chewing with care. Each bite holds the grit of the grinding stone, a reminder of the labor that even food demands, and yet it fills you, it sustains. Around you, the family eats together, voices low but warm, laughter rising now, and then a small jokes ripple through the conversation. A neighbor slips in through the open doorway, carrying a jar of beer to share. The liquid is thick, cloudy, sour-sweet on the tongue, but refreshing in its way. You drink deeply, the coolness easing your throat, the slight bitterness waking your senses after the long day. The jar passes from hand to hand, each person taking their turn, wiping their lips, sighing softly in contentment. Outside, the sky deepens into indigo. The first stars begin to appear, scattered pinpricks of light against the vast canvas of night. Their presence feels ancient, eternal, the same stars that guided your ancestors and will guide your children's children. From somewhere nearby, the sound of a flute drifts across the air, soft and haunting, weaving between the houses, mingling with the crackle of fires and the murmur of voices. After the meal, you step outside, drawn by the coolness of evening. The village is alive in a quieter way now. Groups of men gather in the street, talking, sharing the news of the day. Women tend the last of their chores, rinsing jars, brushing mats, tying bundles of reeds for the morning. Children linger at play, chasing one another until their laughter fades into yawns. Donkeys bray softly, settling into their shelters. The smell of smoke hangs in the air, drifting lazily upward into the dark. You walk slowly toward the river, bare feet brushing the dust, the night air carrying with it a mixture of scents: damp reeds, burning wood, fish, the faint sweetness of lotus flowers that open in the dark. The Nile is quiet now, its surface smooth, reflecting the stars with a shimmer that ripples only when a fish leaps, briefly breaking the silence. You sit on the bank, the earth cool beneath you, your body finally at rest. From this place, the world feels vast. You can hear the low chant of a priest from the nearby temple, offering prayers into the night. The words are carried on the wind, solemn and steady, their meaning ancient, their power lingering. The gods are close here, always. They dwell in the river, in the stars, in the soil itself. You lift your gaze to the constellations, tracing the familiar shapes your father once pointed out to you: the falcon, the bull, the boat of Ra as he sails through the underworld. Their stories live above you, painted in light. The air cools further, wrapping around your skin like a blessing. You stretch out on the bank, the sounds of the village fading into a distant hum, the river whispering softly beside you. Your eyelids grow heavy, your breathing slows. The stars blur slightly as you drift, your body surrendering to rest, your mind wandering in the space between waking and dreaming. In this liminal place, you imagine the gods watching over you. Osiris, lord of the afterlife, keeping the fields fertile. Isis, mother of magic, protecting your family. Ra, the sun god, who even now journeys through darkness, preparing to rise again in the morning. Their presence is woven into the very fabric of your life, inseparable from the soil you till, the water you drink, the air you breathe. You return home at last, slipping onto the reed mat, pulling the linen lightly over your body. The house is quiet now. Your wife rests beside you, your children curled close together, their breaths soft and even. The fire has burned low, casting a faint glow that dances across the walls, shadows shifting gently. You close your eyes, listening to the hum of night, the distant croak of frogs, the occasional bark of a dog, the soft rustle of reeds in the wind. The ache in your muscles remains, but it is softened by the comfort of rest, by the knowledge that the day is done. Tomorrow, the sun will rise again, the fields will call, the work will begin anew. But for now, here in the quiet of night, you let yourself drift, carried by the timeless rhythm of life along the Nile. Beneath the eternal stars, the first light of dawn creeps back into the village, the horizon painted in strokes of pale pink and gold. You wake to the chorus of birds rising from the reeds, their cries piercing the cool air. The house is still, but not for long. You roll from the reed mat, joints stiff, the faint scent of smoke and clay lingering from the fire that smoldered through the night. Another day begins, another chance to offer thanks, another chance to ask for protection. Religion is not separate from your life here. It is not something reserved for the temple or the priests. It is woven into each breath, each mouthful of bread, each sip of water from the Nile. From the moment you stir awake, you carry the gods with you. Ra has once again defeated the darkness, sailing across the underworld to rise in the east. Without him, there would be no dawn, no warmth, no food. You whisper a quiet word of gratitude, touching your fingers lightly to your forehead, a gesture as natural as breathing. Your wife tends to the small household shrine, a simple niche carved into the mud brick wall. Inside it rests a small clay figure, rough but sacred, a household god who watches over your family. Some households honor Bess, the squat, lion-faced guardian of children and mothers. Others place small images of Taurit, the hippo goddess, fierce and protective, who drives away spirits that bring illness. Today she lays a sprig of dried herbs near the figure, the fragrance filling the room with a sharp, green sweetness. You add a small piece of bread from yesterday's meal, an offering humble yet sincere. These gestures feel small, but without them, life feels exposed, vulnerable, unprotected. Stepping into the morning air, you join the others, moving through the narrow lanes toward the fields. Some pass by with amulets strung around their necks, carved of faience or bone, glowing faintly in the morning light. An ankh, symbol of life. An eye of Horus, to protect against evil. A scarab beetle, promising rebirth and renewal. These are not luxuries, but necessities. Without them, misfortune lurks too close. You touch the cord at your own throat, the simple amulet there warm against your skin, a reassurance that the unseen world still favors you. On the way to the fields, you notice a small crowd gathered near a shrine that stands at the edge of the village. It is a simple stone, weathered and rough, but it bears the faint carved image of a falcon. It belongs to Horus, the sky god, the eternal protector of kings and people alike. The villagers lay offerings at its base: onions, bread, a handful of barley. A woman kneels, pressing her forehead to the stone, murmuring a plea for a sick child. The smell of incense drifts on the air, pungent and sweet, carried from a small clay burner lit nearby. You pause, bowing your head briefly, whispering your own prayer, for strong harvests, for health, for peace within your home. Then you move on, the gods acknowledged, their presence carried with you into the fields. The labor of the day begins again, the soil turning beneath your hands, the water of the irrigation channels glittering under the strengthening sun. As you work, you remember the old stories told by your father, how the god Osiris taught men to plant and reap, how his death and rebirth mirror the crops that vanish in drought and return with the floods. To plant a seed is to remember Osiris, to harvest is to honor him. You feel it in the very rhythm of your work, the cycle of death and rebirth written into the land itself. When the sun grows high and heavy, you pause to drink. You scoop water from a jar carried out from the village, cool against your tongue. But even this simple act carries reverence. Water is life, a gift of the Nile, which itself is the body of a god. Some say Hopi, the spirit of the flood waters, swells the river each year to renew the land. You think of him as you swallow, your throat wet, your body revived. Gratitude lingers with every drop. The day passes, the work continuing, the sun sliding slowly westward. At dusk, you gather with others in the village square. The day's labor behind you, the coolness of evening returning. Here, religion takes on another shape. The stories flow like water, spoken aloud in the flicker of firelight, shared by old and young alike. The myths are not distant tales, they are the very marrow of your life. You hear once more how Ra sails across the heavens each day, only to plunge into darkness each night, fighting the great serpent Apophis in the underworld. Each dawn is proof of his victory, a triumph that allows you to rise, to eat, to live. Children sit wide-eyed, their faces glowing in the fire's light, as an elder recounts the tale of Isis and her magic, how she pieced Osiris together after he was torn apart, how her love and her power defied death itself. In these stories, you see your own struggles reflected: loss, endurance, renewal. They are not abstract myths, but lessons, reminders, comforts. They make sense of the hardships that press in on every side. Later, as the stars spread wide above you, you feel the closeness of the sacred in the very air. The temple of the village, though small, gleams faintly in the distance, its whitewashed walls reflecting moonlight. It belongs perhaps to a local form of Hathor, goddess of joy and motherhood, whose festivals bring music and laughter even into the simplest lives. Though you may not enter the inner sanctuary, that space is reserved for priests, you still feel the goddess's presence. Her statue rests within, tended daily with offerings, washed and clothed, fed as though she were alive. The gods are not distant, they dwell here, among you, demanding reverence, offering protection. As you return home, you whisper a final prayer into the night, your words carried upward into the vast silence. They are simple words, unadorned, but they carry the weight of your life. Gratitude for surviving another day, hope for strength to face the next, and trust that the gods will not abandon you. Inside, the house is quiet, the children already curled together in sleep. The faint glow of the hearth lights the clay walls, casting flickering patterns that remind you of hieroglyphs etched in stone. You lie down upon the reed mat, pulling the linen lightly over you, the coolness of the night sinking into your bones. The hum of frogs rises from the river, a steady chorus, joined by the occasional cry of a night bird. Your eyes close slowly, your breath deepens. You surrender to rest with the certainty that the gods watch over you, in every shadow, in every star, in every dream. Tomorrow, the cycle will begin again. The sun will rise, the river will flow, the earth will yield, and your prayers will continue, woven seamlessly into the fabric of each passing day. The sun rises with a slow, deliberate warmth, brushing across the Nile's surface, and you wake once more on your simple reed mat. The air is damp and earthy, carrying the scent of mud and river reeds from the nearby channels. Outside, life is already stirring. Chickens call, a dog barks faintly in the distance, and neighbors begin to trudge toward the fields. You rise carefully, stretching stiff limbs, feeling the cool morning air against your skin, and begin the familiar rituals of washing and dressing. Water scooped from the jar near the house, rubbed across your face, hands and arms, the touch both bracing and soothing. Today will be long. The Pharaoh's officials are in the village, and the task before you is part labor, part tribute. You carry with you the knowledge that every day, every hour is counted, measured, weighed, and tallied. Corn, barley, flax, these are not just crops. They are currency, and in many ways, your life is entwined with their yield. To harvest poorly is to risk punishment. To fail in your duty to the state is to risk shame, or worse. You think of the scribes who tally records on papyrus, their reed brushes dancing across the surface with a precision that feels like magic, preserving your toil for eternity. The walk to the fields is quiet at first, but the rising sun warms your back and loosens your thoughts. Along the path, children run barefoot, chasing each other and squealing with laughter, the sound carrying across the low mud brick walls of the village. Women carry jars of water and bundles of reeds, heading to tend the gardens and small livestock. Each step you take is a reminder that life is labor, but life is also woven with these small, human joys, these flickers of play and love that persist even in the shadow of heavy responsibility. When you reach the fields, the weight of the day settles immediately upon you. The soil, dark and rich from the seasonal flood, presses against your feet as you dig channels and plant seedlings. You feel the grainy texture under your fingernails, the scent of earth and water filling your nostrils. This work is physical, demanding every muscle in your body, but it is also sacred. Osiris, whose body was scattered across the land by jealous hands, watches each furrow you carve. Every seed you plant is an echo of his resurrection, a tiny promise that life will return even when it seems lost. Mid-morning brings the arrival of the overseers, officials sent from the pharaoh himself. They are draped in linen and adorned with modest jewelry, yet their presence carries authority that cannot be questioned. Their eyes are sharp, measuring the furrows, the spacing of seedlings, the alignment of irrigation channels. You feel the weight of their scrutiny, the silent calculations in their minds, and you redouble your effort, moving more deliberately, hands quicker, posture straighter. The work must be done not just to survive, but to honor the king, to honor the gods, and to protect your family from retribution. Taxes are never far from your thoughts. Grain, flax, and sometimes labor itself are demanded from you and your neighbors. Some of the harvest will leave your hands before it even reaches your home, measured, weighed, and recorded. You think of the scribes' tallies on papyrus like tiny monuments of control, each mark representing hours of your labor, each column a reminder that life in this land is never fully your own. Yet you work because you must, because survival depends on it, because obedience ensures that tomorrow will arrive with as little calamity as possible. By midday, the sun sits high above the fields, fierce and unyielding, and sweat runs freely down your back. The smell of warm earth mingles with your own sweat, sharp and musky. You pause briefly, leaning on your hoe, listening to the low hum of the Nile, feeling its steady presence as a reminder that life will continue, that water, sun, and soil are constants, even when men are not. You sip from the water jar, grains of sand and mud clinging to your lips, the cool liquid washing away a bit of fatigue. Around you, others work in rhythm, moving almost as one body, a silent ballet of labor that has repeated 4 generations. As the day wears on, a messenger arrives, carrying word from the district official. It is a small note, etched onto a piece of papyrus, summoning certain villagers to deliver additional labor or provide more produce. You take it quietly, knowing that resistance is not an option. The Pharaoh's will is absolute, and obedience is the lifeline of every family. You carry on, hands moving mechanically at first, but gradually, the rhythm of work reclaims you. Each furrow, each planting, each adjustment of the irrigation channel becomes a meditation, a way to survive both the sun's heat and the weight of authority. By late afternoon, the shadows stretch long across the fields. Your body aches with the effort of the day, but there is also a subtle satisfaction, a quiet pride. Despite the burdens, the oversight, and the demands of the state, you have accomplished something tangible. The soil holds the seeds of the future. Your hands have shaped the land, and the gods, surely, are watching your diligence. You pause for a moment, feeling the wind carry the distant calls of children and women, the hum of village life returning as the sun dips toward the horizon. Evening brings a slower pace. The overseers leave, their sandals raising dust, their figures receding into the distance, and you return home with a mixture of relief and lingering apprehension. The path back is lined with reeds and small clay houses, walls painted faintly in ochre or whitewash. Smoke rises from a handful of hearths, curling into the cool air, carrying the aroma of cooking lentils, barley porridge, and roasted fish. You take a deep breath, savoring the familiar scents, a reminder that home is a sanctuary from the rigid structures outside. At home, your wife greets you quietly, her hands moving with practiced efficiency to prepare the evening meal. The children watch you with curiosity, their faces illuminated by the fading light. Together, you break bread, share water, and recount the day in soft whispers. Every action, every word, is imbued with subtle acknowledgement of the Pharaoh and the gods. You share your toil, but also your prayers, for continued strength, for protection from disease, for a bountiful harvest next season. Night falls, and the village becomes a tapestry of shadows and firelight. Crickets chirp from the reeds, the Nile hums faintly, and a distant owl calls across the fields. You lie down once more on the reed mat, your body heavy but content. In the quiet, you feel the presence of Osiris and Ra, of Hathor and Bes, their spirits interwoven with every breath. The gods are not distant, not abstract. They are part of your labor, your obedience, your very survival. Before sleep takes you, you remember the scribes, the overseers, the Pharaoh's will, and yet, beneath it all, there is the subtle rhythm of life itself, the river flowing, the sun rising, the earth turning. Despite hardship, despite vigilance and taxes, there is constancy, and in that constancy, a strange comfort. You close your eyes, feeling the day's labor settle in your muscles, feeling the presence of family, of the gods, of the land itself. You breathe in slowly, then exhale, surrendering to the calm night, trusting that tomorrow, the sun will rise again, the Nile will flow again, and your labor, as ever, will continue in the cycle of life, service, and devotion. The morning begins not with the usual clanging of tools or the soft splashing of irrigation water, but with a peculiar hum of excitement drifting through the village. The air feels different, lighter, as though the very Nile itself carries an extra shimmer under the rising sun. Today is not just another day of planting, harvesting, or tallying. Today is a festival day. You rise from your reed mat with a sense of anticipation, rubbing your eyes, feeling the familiar stiffness of your back, but also sensing a rare energy that quickens your movements. Already, outside, you can hear voices, neighbors talking in hushed but eager tones, children squealing, women laughing as they prepare baskets and jars for the journey into the heart of the village or perhaps to the temple itself. Festivals in Egypt are more than simple diversions. They are woven into the very fabric of life, marking the seasons, honoring the gods, ensuring the continued balance of the world. You know that without them, the Nile might not flood, the grain might not sprout, the sun might not return after the darkness. They are not optional, they are necessary, sacred, joyous, and vital all at once. You step outside into the warm glow of morning. Neighbors are already gathering, their linen freshly washed, white cloth gleaming softly in the sun, somewhere necklaces strung with beads of faience and polished stones. Children's eyes are bright, darting here and there, their bare feet slapping the earth as they chase each other before being pulled back by their mother's hands. Men laugh as they lift jars of beer, sloshing slightly, the frothy smell already hinting at what awaits later in the day. The air itself feels festive. Incense wafts faintly from the direction of the temple, a smell of resins and herbs, sweet and sharp at once, mingling with the earthy aroma of roasting bread and meat. Flute players have already begun their songs, soft, playful notes winding through the breeze like birdsong. You feel the rhythm in your chest, a beat that awakens something deeper than the weariness of daily labor. Walking toward the temple, you pass by a decorated gateway. Palm fronds and garlands hang across the entrance, swaying gently, catching the light. For once, the dusty road seems transformed, not into gold, but into something brighter, a shared path of joy. You are surrounded by your fellow villagers, moving as one body, not burdened this time by overseers or tallymen, but drawn by shared devotion and shared need for celebration. When you arrive, the temple looms tall, its mud brick walls washed white, hieroglyphs carved and painted, glowing in the sun. Statues of the gods, draped in cloth and garlands, stand at the entrance, their faces serene, their presence commanding. Priests move gracefully, their shaven heads catching the light, their linen pristine, their hands lifting censers that spill trails of fragrant smoke into the air. You join the throng gathered before the temple. The priest chants, his voice low and sonorous, accompanied by the steady beat of drums. You bow your head, your heart swelling, not with fear this time, but with reverence and belonging. These words, these rituals, have been spoken for generations, tying you not only to your neighbors, but to ancestors long gone, to a people who have walked this same earth for centuries, who have looked to the same gods for protection, guidance, and sustenance. The offerings begin: bread, beer, flowers, small statues, baskets of fruit, all carried forward by villagers with careful, respectful steps. You clutch your own offering, a small bundle of barley, the best you could spare, and approach the altar. The priest accepts it, placing it with the others, and for a moment you feel seen, not by him, but by the god whose statue towers above. Whether Osiris, Hathor, or Ra, you sense their presence, their approval, as though they are leaning close, whispering gratitude in a language only the heart can understand. The ritual continues, incense rising higher, drums quickening, flutes joining, and then suddenly, the celebration bursts wide open. The priest raises his arms, chanting louder, and the crowd responds with cheers. The gods have been honored, the balance maintained. Now the people may rejoice, and rejoice you do. The music swells, the rhythm infectious, and soon the space before the temple transforms into a place of dance and laughter. Men and women sway, stamping their feet, clapping their hands, moving in circles to the beat of drums. Children dart between them, giggling, their laughter like silver bells in the sun. Jars of beer are passed around, frothy, slightly sour, filling mouths and loosening tongues. Bread is broken and shared, fish roasted and torn apart, dates sticky and sweet melting on tongues. You drink deeply, the beer thick and grainy, settling warm in your stomach. Your body, so used to bending under labor, now bends in dance. Your feet stamp the earth not to sow or harvest, but to give thanks, to let go, to feel lightness for a change. Sweat pours down your face, but it is not from toil, it is from joy. As the sun arcs across the sky, the festival deepens. Storytellers emerge, their voices strong and theatrical, recounting tales of gods and kings, of Isis gathering Osiris's scattered pieces, of Ri's daily voyage across the heavens, of the cat-headed Bastet protecting homes from evil spirits. Children sit wide-eyed, clutching their knees, soaking in the myths that shape their world. You listen to, though you know the stories well, because each telling is a renewal, a reminder, a reaffirmation that life is more than work and fear. Later, acrobats tumble, balancing on hands, flipping in the air, their bodies lean and strong, moving with grace that seems almost divine. The crowd gasps, laughs, claps, the sound rolling like waves. A group of musicians gathers nearby, their harps and lutes filling the air with melodies that tangle around the flute and drum. The music is everywhere, a net of sound pulling you into its embrace. As evening approaches, the celebration softens. Torches are lit, their flames flickering against the temple walls, casting tall shadows of gods and men alike. The priests return, offering closing prayers, thanking the gods, blessing the villagers. You bow your head once more, hands clasped, the smell of incense thick in the cooling air. The crowd begins to disperse, but slowly, reluctantly, as though no one wishes the day to end. You walk home with your family, the night filled with murmurs of laughter and song. Children, too tired to walk, are carried on shoulders, their heads lolling, their dreams already deep. Neighbors exchange farewells, promises of tomorrow's labor spoken with a kind of resigned but softened tone. Even the overseers, for today, were absent, replaced by the gaze of gods who seem gentler, kinder, more forgiving. When you reach home, you lie down on your mat, the day's joy still glowing faintly in your body. Your muscles ache, but not from toil. Your stomach is full, your heart lighter than it has been in weeks. Outside, the sounds of crickets rise, the Nile murmurs as always, the eternal backdrop of life. But tonight, it all feels touched by something divine, as though the gods themselves danced with you, ate with you, drank with you. You close your eyes, the faint smoke of torches still lingering in the air, the music echoing softly in memory. Sleep comes easily, carrying with it the sweetness of dates, the warmth of beer, the rhythm of drums, the laughter of children, and the blessing of gods who, for today at least, smiled upon their people. Tomorrow, the fields will call you back, the overseers will return, the taxes will be tallied again. But tonight, you rest in joy, in community, in celebration. Tonight, you remember that even under the weight of Pharaoh, even under the sun's endless glare, life offers moments of beauty, of release, of togetherness. And in those moments, you find strength enough to face all the tomorrows yet to come. The morning comes slowly, but you do not wake with the same lightness as on festival days, nor even the tired resolve of work. Instead, you open your eyes to a heaviness in your chest, a dull ache that spreads through your body. The air feels thick, though nothing has changed outside. The same breeze drifts faintly in from the river, the same cries of ibises sound across the banks, but your limbs resist, your head throbs. Illness has settled into your body, as it so often does in this world. There is no word for germs or infection here, no understanding of invisible causes. But you know the signs all too well. The fever that makes sweat cling to your linen, the cough that rattles like pebbles in a jar, the weakness that leaves you unable to rise. You are not alone in this. Sickness is as common as hunger, as routine as the floods. Your family gathers around, their brows furrowed with worrying, but also with acceptance. Illness is part of life. The gods bless and curse with equal measure, and the Nile, giver of abundance, is also the carrier of disease. Waterborne sicknesses spread easily, especially when animals drink and bathe in the same current that sustains you. Insects bite, wounds fester, and sometimes the body simply falters under the relentless sun. You do not suffer in silence. There are remedies, age-old treatments passed down through generations, written on papyrus scrolls by healers, whispered from mother to daughter, father to son. Your wife reaches for herbs carefully stored in clay jars, coriander, garlic, honey, and dried figs. She crushes them into a paste, murmuring softly as she works. Honey is prized, not just for its sweetness, but for its power to soothe wounds, to heal infections, to carry the blessing of the bees themselves. Nearby, your neighbor, an older man respected for his knowledge, is called into your hut. He kneels beside you, his shaved head gleaming in the dim light, his linen robe marked faintly with soot from temple offerings. He carries a small satchel of tools and ingredients, wooden splints, dried herbs, stones smooth from years of grinding. His presence brings both reassurance and dread. Healers hold knowledge, but their cures can be harsh, their treatments sometimes as painful as the sickness itself. He examines your eyes, your tongue, listens to the rasp of your breath. He mutters prayers under his breath, invoking Sekhmet, the lion-headed goddess of both plague and healing. To her belongs the power to strike and to cure. He mixes a draught for you, made of honey, milk, and crushed garlic, pressing the cup into your trembling hands. The taste is sharp, almost bitter, but you drink because you must. Later, he burns incense, letting the smoke curl around your body, whispering incantations to drive away the malevolent spirits that are thought to cling to the sick. Perhaps it is not spirits, but there is comfort in the rhythm of his words, the sweet sour smell of the resins, the sense of being cared for. Days pass in this haze. Sometimes you feel stronger, sometimes weaker. You drift between sleep and waking, the world reduced to the sound of your own breathing, the touch of cool cloth pressed to your forehead, the taste of herbs bitter on your tongue. Outside, the fields call for labor, but your body cannot answer. Others must take your place, or the work will fall behind. Your absence is not just a personal struggle, but a burden on your family and neighbors. In this land, every pair of hands matters. As you lie there, you think of how fragile life truly is. You have seen neighbors struck down by fevers, children lost before they had barely begun to speak, women weakened by childbirth, men felled by infections from simple cuts. Death is not a distant shadow here. It walks hand in hand with life. And yet, you also know that sometimes the body recovers, sometimes the gods are merciful, sometimes the remedies take hold and strength returns. On one of these days, as your fever ebbs for a time, you recall the rituals that accompany sickness. It is not only the body that is treated, but the spirit. Amulets are tied around wrists and necks, small carved figures of gods and protective symbols. You wear one yourself, a simple eye of Horus carved from faience. Its blue surface cool against your skin. It is said to ward off harm, to restore health, to keep balance within the body. Whether it works or not, it comforts you to feel it there, pressing lightly as you shift. The healer returns often, adjusting his mixtures, offering new prayers. One day, he presses a poultice of crushed dates and herbs against your chest, binding it with strips of linen. Another day, he places your hands in a bowl of water mixed with natron, the salty mineral drawn from dry desert lakes, said to purify and cleanse. Each treatment is accompanied by words, gestures, touches of reverence. Healing is not separate from worship. The two are one. Your family keeps vigil. At night, your wife sits beside you, her head resting against the wall, her hand holding yours. Children peer in, hushed for once, their eyes wide with fear and hope. They know the uncertainty of sickness, though they do not yet carry its weight. You do not speak much, but when you do, it is to reassure them, even as your own voice shakes. Some days, you hear news of others in the village. A neighbor's child has fallen ill. An elder has passed away quietly in his sleep. The cycle continues. Illness spares no one, not even the wealthy, though they may have better access to physicians attached to temples or palaces. Even Pharaoh, divine in image, can grow weak, can bleed, can die. At last, after what feels like an eternity of fever and weakness, you wake one morning with a strange lightness. The heaviness in your chest has eased, the cough softened, your body no longer burning with heat. You are still tired, your limbs trembling as you try to rise. But there is a shift, a turning of the tide. You sense it, and so does your family. Your wife smiles through tears, pressing a cup of water into your hands. The healer, when he arrives, nods with satisfaction, offering thanks to Sekhmet for relenting. Recovery is slow. You cannot return to the fields at once. Your steps are shaky, your muscles soft, but each day, you walk a little farther outside. Each day you eat a little more. Each day you feel the pull of life returning. The Nile glitters as before, the reeds sway, the sun climbs high, and you are still here to see it. That, in itself, feels like a blessing. In sickness, you have seen the frailty of the body, but also the strength of community. Neighbors who helped tend the fields in your absence, family who stayed at your side, healers who gave their knowledge and words. Together, they form the web that keeps life moving forward. In this world where death is always near, survival is never a solitary act. As the evening comes, you sit quietly outside your home, watching the river glow under the sinking sun. The taste of garlic and honey still lingers faintly on your tongue. The smell of incense clings to your linen. The amulet rests against your skin. You take a deep breath, feeling your lungs expand without pain. And for the first time in weeks, the air feels sweet, clean, alive. You know sickness will come again, to you, to your children, to your neighbors. It is part of life, inescapable, woven into the rhythm of the Nile as surely as flood and harvest. But for now, you are grateful for the breath in your chest, for the warmth of your family beside you, for the gods who allowed you to rise once more. You close your eyes, letting the quiet of the night settle, and drift into a sleep that feels less like surrender and more like renewal. The Nile glitters again in the morning light, and you rise to its rhythm as you have countless times before. Your body still carries traces of weakness from sickness, but there is no choice now. The fields demand hands, and the season waits for no one. The river has already begun its retreat after the flood, leaving behind thick, dark silt spread across the banks. It is a gift, fertile and rich, but it must be shaped, worked, commanded into order. You walk out barefoot, your toes pressing into the damp soil. Each step feels grounding, cool against the heat already gathering in the air. In your hand you carry a simple tool, nothing more than a wooden hoe, its blade worn from years of use, yet still essential. Tools are passed down, repaired, reshaped when they break. Bronze is precious, iron even more so, and peasants rarely hold such metals. You work with what you have, wood and stone, labor and persistence. The fields spread wide along the floodplain, divided into plots by raised ridges of earth that channel water as needed. This is the great art of Egyptian farming, the control of water, the careful shaping of land into veins and arteries that sustain crops. Without it, the gift of the Nile would scatter, uncontained. With it, life flourishes. You bend to your work, shoulders hunching, arms straining as you break apart the soil. Others work alongside you, the rhythm of their movement steady, almost meditative. The air fills with the scrape of wood against earth, the soft grunt of effort, the rustle of reeds swaying nearby. Conversations drift between workers, muted but present. Someone jokes about the stubbornness of the ground, another hums an old tune, its notes rising and falling with the swing of the hoe. This is not just labor, it is survival. Barley for bread, emmer wheat for beer, flax for linen, vegetables for daily meals. Everything depends on these long days of sweat. Without crops, there is no food. Without surplus, there are no taxes to be given to temples and officials, no offerings to the gods, no chance of keeping Pharaoh's gaze benevolent. What you harvest does not fully belong to you. A portion always goes upward, claimed by scribes and overseers. It is the way of things, as natural and immovable as the sun. As the morning lengthens, the sun climbs higher, and sweat beads along your brow. The heat presses against your skin like a hand, heavy and relentless. You pause only briefly to sip water from a clay jar brought from the river, its surface cool against your lips. There is no luxury of rest here. Each moment lost is another stalk unplanted, another ear of grain ungrown. By midday, the oxen are brought to the fields, great beasts with broad shoulders and slow, deliberate steps. They drag wooden plows across the soil, guided by ropes and the sharp cries of their handlers. The earth splits open under their weight, lines drawn in dark rows, ready to receive seed. You walk behind, scattering handfuls of grain into the furrows, each cast deliberate, practiced. The movement is older than memory, repeated by your father, his father, and generations stretching back beyond counting. The oxen snort, their breath steaming in the sun, their hides streaked with dust. They are as essential as the Nile itself, their strength multiplying your own. You treat them with care, for they are not easily replaced. Sometimes they are adorned with garlands during festivals, honored not only as animals, but as partners in survival. Today, they labor as you labor, side by side. When the seed has been sown, the irrigation begins. Water is lifted from the river by shadoofs, simple machines of counterweighted poles and buckets. You watch as men work them in rhythm, dipping the bucket into the Nile, swinging it upward, and spilling the water into channels that lead across the fields. The flow sparkles in the sun, running through the carved paths to soak the waiting earth. Without this, the ground would dry, the seed would die before it sprouted. The work continues long after the sun has reached its height. Hours blur into one another, marked only by the steady rhythm of movement, the ache growing in your muscles, the deepening of shadows as the afternoon wanes. Hunger gnaws, but meals are simple, taken quickly: a flat piece of bread, a few onions, perhaps dried fish. The food fills, but does not satisfy, yet you do not linger on the thought. There is too much yet to do. As evening approaches, the overseer arrives. He comes not with tools, but with a reed pen and writing board, clay jar of ink tied at his belt. His eyes are sharp, his posture rigid. He carries the weight of authority, not in strength, but in the tallying of what is owed. He surveys the fields, the workers, the rows of planted grain. His hand moves swiftly, recording what he sees in lines and symbols carved onto papyrus or ostraca. Each mark is a measure of your labor, each stroke a reminder that what you grow is not fully your own. There is unease when he appears, though none speak it aloud. His presence is a reminder of Pharaoh's reach, of the endless chain that binds your effort to the grandeur of temples, to the luxuries of nobles, to the monumental stones of tombs rising on distant horizons. Yet you bow your head respectfully, for to defy him is to defy a system older than yourself, a system that leaves little room for resistance. When the overseer departs, the tension eases and the workers return to their rhythm. The sun sinks lower, the sky flushed with deep orange and gold. Birds return to the reeds, their calls echoing across the water. The oxen are led back to rest, their hooves stirring dust as they go. The day's work has carved its mark upon you, sweat-soaked linen, aching limbs, dust clinging to your skin. But it is not finished until the last channel of water has flowed, the last handful of seed cast. Finally, as darkness approaches, you walk home. Your feet are heavy, but your heart carries a quiet steadiness. The land is planted, the soil watered, for now, you have done your part. The outcome lies in the hands of the gods, in the moods of the Nile, in the mercies of sun and rain. You can only wait, watch, and hope. At home, the hearth glows faintly, and the smell of cooking fills the air. You sit with your family, eating simply but gratefully. Children chatter, your wife hums softly, the small comforts of daily life wrapping around you like linen. The ache in your body remains, but it is softened by this warmth, this belonging. When the meal is done, you step outside one last time. The stars bloom across the sky, sharp and endless, the same stars your ancestors looked upon when they first settled by the Nile. Somewhere in the distance, jackals cry, their voices carrying across the plain. You feel the cool earth beneath your feet, the breeze brushing against your skin, and for a moment, the weariness lifts. This is the rhythm of your days, hard but steady, demanding but enduring. The fields will ask again tomorrow, and the day after, and every day until harvest. Yet within the endless labor, there is life, bread to eat, beer to drink, family to love, gods to honor. You breathe deeply, letting the night settle into your bones, and return inside to sleep, ready to begin again. The first rays of dawn creep over the horizon, spilling soft gold across the Nile's surface. You rise with it, though your body longs to linger beneath the thin linen cloth that covers you. Sleep never seems long enough, yet the day will not wait. Outside, the river stirs with life, fishermen pushing out their boats, the splash of oars breaking the stillness, birds circling low to hunt. Another day has begun, and with it, the endless cycle of work and duty. You stretch, rubbing the ache from your shoulders. The fields are planted, watered, and now they grow in silence, their green shoots already beginning to poke through the dark soil. That should bring relief, but instead, it brings something else, the quiet weight of expectation. Because the moment crops take root, they are no longer fully yours. The land itself, though you till it and sweat into it, is considered Pharaoh's gift, and Pharaoh always claims his due. Not long after you begin your morning tasks, the sound of voices carries from the edge of the village. Men in finer linen approach, reed pens tucked neatly behind their ears, pallets of ink hanging at their sides. Scribes, their presence sharpens the air, turning easy chatter into hushed silence. Children duck back into doorways, dogs slink away to shadows. For the scribes come not for stories or greetings, but for records, for numbers, for lists, for taxes. You stand straighter, brushing dust from your tunic. Your neighbors gather, each of you forming a quiet line before them. One unrolls a sheet of papyrus, the surface smooth thin, while another prepares his brush and ink. Their eyes scan the crowd, marking faces, nodding briskly. Names are called, obligations read aloud. Grain owed, oil owed, fish or poultry owed. It is all written, calculated, stacked into the never-ending accounts that stretch from one end of the kingdom to the other. When your name is spoken, you step forward. The scribe's gaze is sharp, assessing, as though he can measure your worth in a glance. He asks about your field, about the number of rows you have sown, about the water you've drawn. His brush flicks against the papyrus, scratching your life into neat symbols, binding you to debts not yet paid. You answer carefully, truthfully, though your heart beats a little faster. To understate your yield is to invite suspicion. To overstate is to invite ruin when you cannot deliver. There is no victory, only balance. The scribe notes your answers, then gestures to an overseer, who adds his own tally to a clay tablet. To records, two sets of eyes watching, ensuring that nothing slips unnoticed. When they are done, you are dismissed with a curt nod, but the weight of their presence lingers long after they've left. You return to your work, yet your thoughts circle endlessly. The harvest feels distant, uncertain. Floods may fail, pests may come, illness may strike, and yet the tax will still be demanded in full. Pharaoh's temples must be supplied, his officials fed, his gods appeased with offerings. The great cities rise, because villages like yours bend beneath their weight. And though you are weary, though your body aches from yesterday's labors, you will return to the fields again tomorrow, and the day after, because to falter is to invite hunger, punishment, or worse. In the afternoon, you see neighbors sorting what little surplus they can gather early. Chickens are carried squawking under arms, eggs counted carefully into woven baskets. Clay jars of oil are sealed with mud and reeds. Fish, salted and dried, are tied in neat bundles. These are the smaller dues, delivered in pieces throughout the year, carried by donkey or boat to storehouses controlled by officials. Sometimes you help, joining the group as they make their way toward the administrative centers. The journey is long, the sun hot, yet the act is performed with quiet resignation. No one dares speak against it. As you walk, you notice the scale of it all. The storage buildings rise solid and imposing, their mud brick walls thick and high, guarded by men with staffs. Inside, the air smells of grain, dust, and oil, wealth made tangible, gathered from countless hands like yours. The scribes sit cross-legged at low tables, tallying each item it is presented. A hen is recorded. A basket of onions is recorded. Every jar sealed with clays marked, the scribe's pen ensuring nothing vanishes uncounted. The thought occurs, as it always does, that so much is demanded from so many, and yet you will see little return of it. The food will travel to temples, to feed priests and laborers, or be sent onward to supply craftsmen chiseling stone in distant quarries. Some may even feed soldiers patrolling far-off borders. Your contribution is a thread in a vast, invisible web, binding your village to the heartbeat of the entire kingdom. When you return home at dusk, the emptiness of your baskets contrasts sharply with the fullness of the storehouses. It gnaws at you, this imbalance, yet you do not dwell too long. Complaints travel quickly, and walls have ears. Instead, you sink onto the low stool by the fire, sharing a modest meal of bread and lentils. You chew slowly, staring into the flames. The taste is plain, but it fills the hollow. The night deepens, and outside, the village murmurs. Voices carry from one doorway to another. Neighbors discussing the day's demands, mothers soothing children, men speaking softly of hopes for rain or fears of pests. Someone plucks a simple tune on a stringed instrument, its notes drifting gently across the dark. In those moments, there is comfort. You are not alone in your burdens. Every house, every family shares the same weight. Later, as you lie down beneath the faint shimmer of starlight, you wonder about fairness. Do the gods hear the prayers of peasants as they hear the prayers of priests? Does Pharaoh, radiant in his palace, ever think of the men and women bent over fields, whose sweat builds his power? The questions linger unanswered as your eyes grow heavy. Tomorrow will bring the same labors, the same tallies, the same relentless cycle, and yet you will rise, as you always have, because life demands it, because the Nile still flows, because survival is its own offering. The wind sighs through the reeds outside, a gentle lullaby. Your breath slows, and at last you drift into sleep, leaving the burdens of taxes, overseers, and obligations behind, if only until the next dawn. The dawn comes again, soft and golden, spilling through the reed mats hung across your doorway. You stir awake not to the voices of scribes or the shuffle of overseers, but to the familiar sounds of home, the braying of a donkey tethered outside, the rustle of chickens scratching in the dust, the muffled chatter of your household already at work. There is no rest day, no pause, but the labors inside the home carry a different weight than those demanded by the fields or the Pharaoh's officials. The hearth glows faintly with the embers of last night's fire. A clay pot rests atop it, filled with water that was drawn from the river before sunrise. You crouch beside it, stirring the ashes gently until a small flame flickers back to life. The crackle of dry twigs joins the morning chorus, smoke curling upward and escaping through the small gaps in the roof beams. The smell of barley bread baking soon follows, earthy and warm. Flat rounds of dough are pressed with calloused hands, placed carefully on hot stones, their edges darkening as they cook. A familiar scent, one you have known since childhood, yet it still fills the room with comfort. A piece of bread is torn, dipped in a simple paste of beans and herbs, and handed to you. It is not lavish, but it is sustenance, and for a moment, you eat in silence, savoring the taste. After the meal, the household scatters to its duties. Some head toward the animals. Chickens must be gathered, goats milked, donkeys checked for sores from harness straps. Their care is constant, for a sick or weak animal means less food, less trade, and greater hardship. You move among them slowly, rubbing the goat's coarse hair, listening to its soft bleating. Its warmth seeps into your hands, grounding you in the present moment. Nearby, someone begins spinning flax into thread. The fibers are teased apart, rolled carefully against a thigh, then twisted and spun into long strands. The rhythm is steady, soothing, accompanied by the faint rasp of fibers against skin. The thread will later be woven into cloth, perhaps dyed with plant-based colors, then cut and stitched into simple tunics. These garments may not dazzle with finery like those of nobles or priests, but they clothe the family, shield from the sun, and remind you of the patience it takes to transform raw stalks into something useful. In another corner, clay is being shaped. The village potter kneads the earth with practiced hands, smoothing it into even texture, then begins to spin it into bowls and jars. Each piece is formed with care, the walls pinched upward, the rims smoothed with a wet hand. The smell of damp clay lingers in the air, mingling with the faint smoke of the fire. When finished, the vessels will be baked in open kilns, hardened into forms that can hold grain, water, or oil, lifelines of daily life. Children run about, their laughter filling the air, though even they are given small tasks. A girl carries a basket of chopped reeds, her bare feet pattering on the dirt floor. A boy crouches near the hearth, blowing gently to keep the fire alive. Their play intertwines with work, as it always does, their games echoing the tasks they will someday inherit. Later in the day, the women of the household gather with neighbors to weave mats and baskets. Reeds from the river are split and dried, then interlaced in intricate patterns. The work is repetitive, but oddly meditative, the soft swish of reeds sliding against each other, forming a kind of rhythm. These mats will line floors, baskets will store food, and ropes will bind tools together. Each creation holds the mark of the maker's patience, crafted not for beauty alone, but for survival. As you sit watching, you notice how the labor of the home is no less demanding than the toil of the fields. Every stitch, every woven strand, every shaped vessel is another brick in the unseen wall that holds the household together. Without it, the crops would spoil, the food would rot, the family would be left vulnerable. The pharaoh may never see this work, the scribes may never record it, yet it is just as vital as the harvest that fills the storehouses. The afternoon grows hotter, and the shade within the mud brick walls becomes precious. You retreat to the cooler interior, where jars of water sit sealed with clay stoppers, their surfaces damp with condensation. The air is thick, heavy, but manageable, and here, tasks shift to quieter ones. Repairs are made to tools, a chipped blade sharpened against stone, a wooden handle wrapped with fresh cord. A fishing net is checked for holes, each knot tested, each tear patched with care. The hours pass in steady rhythm, marked not by bells or scribes, but by the movement of light across the doorway. When the sun slants low, painting the sky in bands of amber and crimson, the household gathers once again. A small meal is shared, bread dipped in oil, onions sliced thin, perhaps a bit of fish, flockus kind. The fire crackles, smoke rising in slow curls as the day winds toward its end. After the meal, the air outside cools, and the village stirs with voices. Neighbors exchange greetings, offer bits of food, share stories. Someone plays a lute-like instrument, its strings plucked in soft rhythm. Children chase one another through the dust, their shadows long in the fading light. The laughter carries, blending with the rustle of reeds in the evening breeze. You sit with your family, the firelight painting their faces, and feel the weight of the day lift little by little. The Pharaoh's demands, the scribe's tallies, the harshness of sun and soil all seem distant for now. What remains is the small, steady heartbeat of home, the labors that pass from hand to hand, generation to generation. When the stars appear, brilliant above the dark silhouette of palms, you lie down once more upon the reed mat. The night is quiet, save for the low murmur of voices and the occasional cry of a night bird. You close your eyes, the scent of smoke still clinging to your skin, the warmth of your family close beside you. Tomorrow will bring its own duties, its own burdens, yet for now, there is rest. The crackle of the dying fire lulls you, the rhythm of your breath slowing, and you drift into sleep once more, carried on the quiet tide of life that repeats itself endlessly along the Nile. The morning light falls differently today, softer somehow, as if even the sun acknowledges that this day holds something more than routine. You rise from your reed mat, rubbing the sleep from your eyes, and the first thing you hear is the low murmur of voices outside, neighbors already gathered, speaking quietly of offerings and rituals, of the temple at the edge of the village where the gods dwell in their silent, monumental forms. Religion, for you, is not a distant philosophy or an occasional distraction. It is the steady pulse of existence, woven into every hour of every day. To live here, along the Nile, is to believe that God shaped the floodwaters, guide the harvest, and measure your life as surely as a scribe measures grain. You may not understand all the words spoken by priests in their sacred tongues, but you know their gestures, their incense, their blessings, and you know the comfort that comes from seeing your place in the vast, eternal order. You join the small procession of villagers making their way toward the temple. The air is already warm, but a faint breeze rustles the palms. Dust kicks up beneath your feet, mingling with the scent of earth and smoke. Children walk beside you, wide-eyed, clutching bundles of herbs or small loaves of bread, humble gifts to be left before the altar. The temple looms ahead, its walls of stone rising stark and pale against the blue of the morning sky. Even after years of seeing it, your heart quickens as you approach. The gates are tall, carved with figures of gods and kings, their poses eternal, their faces serene. Painted colors still cling to the stone in places, reds, blues, and yellows faded by the sun, yet still bright enough to catch your eye. Torches flicker within, their smoke curling upward in lazy streams. You step through the shadow of the entryway, and the air cools slightly, the thick stone blocking the sun's intensity. Inside, the sounds change, the chatter of the villagers fades, replaced by the deep intonation of chants. Priests in white linen move with deliberate grace, carrying trays of food, jars of beer, and flowers. They tend not to you, the common worshipper, but to the God whose statue rests hidden in the dark sanctuary. Still, their presence holds you in quiet awe. Each motion, each word, seems to vibrate with meaning. You are not permitted into the holiest chamber, where only priests may enter, but you linger in the outer hall, along with others like you. Here, the walls are alive with carvings, scenes of gods bestowing gifts upon Pharaoh, hieroglyphs etched in lines so precise they seem almost to sing. You trace them lightly with your fingers, not fully understanding, but feeling the weight of their truth. They are not meant only for reading, they are meant for believing. An offering table stands nearby, and villagers step forward one by one, placing their gifts upon it. A cluster of figs, a folded reed basket, a clay jug filled with milk. Simple things, yet they carry significance, for they are given freely, in trust that the gods will watch over the giver in return. When your turn comes, you place your own small gift, a loaf of bread baked that morning, wrapped carefully in linen. The priest acknowledges you with the briefest nod, and though no words pass between you, it feels as if the gesture has tied you into something larger, as though you have handed a fragment of your own life to the eternal. The hall fills with incense, its sweet, resinous smoke clinging to your clothes and hair. It tickles your throat, yet soothes the mind, slowing the rhythm of your breath. You close your eyes for a moment and let it wash over you, as the chants continue in low, steady waves. Time seems to stretch, bending away from the ticking of hours and towards something timeless, something that feels as endless as the Nile itself. Eventually, the priests complete their rituals, lifting their arms in reverence, their voices rising before fading into silence. The worshippers begin to file out, some pausing to whisper prayers, others touching the temple walls as though hoping to carry the god's strength home with them. You walk among them, your feet moving slowly, reluctant to leave the calm weight of the temple's shadow. Outside, the sun blazes again, and the dust of the world rises to greet you, yet something within feels steadier, as though the rituals have anchored you. You know the gods have not spoken directly to you, but their presence is woven into your survival, just as surely as the waters of the river are. As the day unfolds, you return to your duties, yet the temple lingers in your thoughts. While repairing a fishing net, you recall the chants. While tending to goats, the smell of incense clings faintly to your skin. When you pass by neighbors, their eyes meet yours, and you see the same quiet reassurance in them. The temple has offered not wealth, not grain, not water, but a kind of invisible strength, the belief that what you endure has meaning, and that the gods themselves have seen you. In the evening, you sit outside your home, gazing at the horizon where the sun sinks low, spilling fire into the river. The world glows in orange and red, and for a moment, it feels as though Ra himself, the sun god, is sailing his bark across the sky before descending into the night. You watch in silence, the air cooling around you, and feel that you are not merely a small, struggling peasant, but a part of a story that stretches beyond memory, beyond time. The stars rise, bright and sharp against the black sky. You lie back, listening to the quiet sounds of the night, the chirp of insects, the distant low of cattle, and imagine them as whispers of the gods. Your body rests heavy against the earth, but your spirit feels light, carried upward by the belief that each day, each breath, each offering has placed you in balance with the eternal. Sleep comes gently, like a blessing, and you surrender to it willingly, with the faint trace of incense still lingering in your mind, and the certainty that when tomorrow begins, the gods will still be watching. The days blend together in their familiar rhythm, but every so often, the rhythm shifts, brightens, lifts. It begins with voices rising earlier than usual, the sound of neighbors gathering long before the sun climbs high. You wake to the buzz of excitement drifting through the village, carried on laughter, on the clatter of sandals against hard-packed earth, on the faint ring of hand drums tapped by eager fingers. Today is no ordinary day. Today is a festival, one of the sacred days when gods are honored not only with incense and offerings, but with song, dance, and the noisy joy of the living. You rise quickly, energy humming through you even before you've broken your fast. The scent of baking fills the air, bread laced with honey and sesame, richer than the loaves of everyday life. Women stir pots of lentils and onions, preparing meals that will be shared under the open sky. Children dart between homes, their faces lit by anticipation, some clutching little clay figurines or strings of beads to wear around their necks. Even the elders, who usually move with the slow pace of age, step out into the sunlight with renewed vigor, their eyes bright. As you walk toward the heart of the village, the sound grows louder. Drums beat steadily, a pulse that quickens your steps. Flutes cry out in shrill, playful notes. The air is alive with music, and for a moment, you forget the weight of labor, the ache of muscles, the endless bending in the fields. Festivals come only a handful of times each year, but when they arrive, they feel as though the gods themselves have gifted the people a brief reprieve from toil. At the edge of the gathering space stands a shrine, decorated with garlands of green reeds and bright lotus flowers plucked from the river. Offerings pile upon the table, loaves of bread, jars of beer, figs, grapes, honey. The priests, dressed in clean white linen, stand beside it, preparing to lead the rituals that mark the beginning of the day. Villagers gather around, pressing close but respectful, waiting for the moment when the sacred meets the celebratory. When the priests begin their prayers, the crowd falls silent. Their voices rise and fall in practiced cadences, carrying words that have been spoken for generations. Smoke curls upward from bowls of burning resin, drifting across the people, clinging to their hair and clothes. The sun, climbing higher, catches in the haze and makes it shimmer. For a moment, you close your eyes and breathe it in, feeling the rhythm of the chants thread into your bones. And then, just as suddenly, the solemn quiet breaks, replaced by the explosion of sound and laughter. The music surges back, louder this time, as if the prayers have opened a gate and let joy spill out. Children dance in the dust, their feet stamping little clouds into the air. Women clap in time with the drums, their voices rising in high, trilling ululations. Men joining with deep-throated calls, and the whole crowd becomes a single, weaving body of movement. You find yourself swept into it, your steps falling into the rhythm, your heart light as though it, too, has been lifted into the sky. There is food shared freely, far more than on any ordinary day. Someone presses a cup of cool beer into your hand, frothy and slightly sour on your tongue. Another offers you a piece of sweet bread, sticky with honey, and you eat it slowly, savoring the rare indulgence. For a few hours, scarcity loosens its grip. Hunger is eased, laughter replaces the groans of fatigue, and the gods are thanked not only with solemn devotion, but with unrestrained joy. In the midst of it all, stories are told, myths of the gods recited aloud by elders, tales that stir both awe and amusement. Children gather close, eyes wide as they hear of Isis searching for Osiris, of Ri's journey across the sky, of Horus defending Egypt from chaos. The stories flow like the river, familiar and yet always fresh, each retelling tying the people closer together, reminding them of who they are and where they belong. As the afternoon deepens, processions form. Villagers carry small statues of gods on wooden platforms, decorated with flowers, their painted faces gleaming in the sun. They are lifted high, swaying slightly as they move through the crowd, and people reach out to touch the platforms, murmuring prayers, asking for blessings. The drums beat harder, the music quickens, and the air fills with a wild, jubilant energy that seems to reach beyond the limits of human strength. You march with them, your voice hoarse from chanting, your feet dusty, your heart pounding. For this moment, you are not simply a peasant scraping a living from the Nile's banks. You are a thread in a great tapestry, woven into the fabric of something eternal. The gods are not distant, unreachable figures. They are here, moving among you, drinking in your laughter, hearing your songs. By evening, the energy begins to soften. The sun lowers, painting the sky in oranges and purples, and the drums slow their beat. People sit together in small groups, eating the last of the food, drinking the last of the beer, speaking in quiet tones now. Children, exhausted, fall asleep in their mother's arms, their faces still smudged with dust and sweetness. The priests return to the shrine, offering one final prayer, a closing of the circle that began at dawn. You lie back on the ground, your head resting against your arm, and gaze up at the sky. The stars emerge one by one, sharp and endless above you. The sounds of the day linger faintly, the echo of drums, the rhythm of clapping, the chorus of voices, but they fade now into the hush of night. Your body is tired, your muscles ache from dancing, but the ache is sweet, different from the daily grind. This pain comes from joy, from release, from communion. As sleep begins to pull at you, you realize that festivals are more than just days of celebration. They are reminders, bright markers in the long, weary line of survival, that you are part of something vast, a people who endure not only through work, but through moments of shared joy. And as your breath slows, you feel gratitude to the gods, to your neighbors, to the very earth beneath you, for this day of lightness before the cycle of toil begins again. You close your eyes, the hum of the crowd fading into the distance, and surrender to the darkness, knowing that the Nile will rise, the fields will need tending, and life will return to its familiar rhythm. But for tonight, you are carried by music, by myth, by the comfort of belonging to something greater than yourself. The laughter of the festival lingers faintly in your mind as dawn breaks once again. For a moment, when you wake, you half expect to hear the pulse of drums or the high trill of flutes, but the village is quiet. Only the soft bleating of goats and the distant bray of a donkey rise in the stillness. Yesterday feels like a dream, vivid, full of color and sound, but dreams fade, and the rhythm of daily life waits for no one. The body does not forget. Every muscle feels heavy from dancing, every step stiff with the weight of celebration. Yet the fields are patient only to a point, and the Nile's cycle is steady. The ground must be tended, the dikes inspected, the canals cleared, for crops will not wait simply because the people were feasting. The gods may allow for joy, but they also demand labor, for in labor lies survival. You rise slowly, stretching against the ache in your back, rubbing your eyes with hands still rough from the soil. The reed mat beneath you offers no comfort, only a reminder that nights are short and days are long. The air is cool in the early morning, the kind of chill that bites gently at your skin, but you know it will not last. The sun will climb soon, and with it, the heat will bear down relentlessly. Breakfast is simple again, stripped of the festival's sweetness. A piece of flatbread, coarse and dry, dipped into a small bowl of lentils. The taste is earthy, filling enough, but not indulgent. As you chew, you watch the steam of your own breath in the cool air, the faint crackle of the cooking fire still burning from the night. Already, you feel the pull of the fields calling you back, Stepping outside. The ground is marked with footprints from yesterday's gatherings, lines where the dancers stamped, patches where the dust was stirred high. It is quiet now, empty save for a few chickens scratching near discarded scraps of food. The shrine, once bright with garlands, looks subdued again, flowers wilting, offerings diminished. The contrast is sharp, joy is fleeting, but the earth is eternal in its demands. You shoulder your tools, a hoe fashioned of wood, its blade tied with rope, worn smooth by countless hands. It is simple, but it will do what it must. The walk to the field stretches before you, the same path you've walked 1,000 times. The soil crunches beneath your sandals, and the river glints softly in the rising light. Around you, other peasants make the same journey, their faces quiet now, their eyes downcast, conserving energy for the work to come. The chatter of the festival has faded into silence. At the field's edge, you pause, taking in the sight. The ground, dark and fertile from the flood, waits to be broken. Canals crisscross the earth, carrying water to the plots, their surfaces gleaming like mirrors in the early sun. Birds circle overhead, already hunting for worms turned up by the hose bite. There is a beauty to it, stark, simple, grounding, but also a weight. This land holds your life, but it also binds you, tethering your days to its rhythm without pause. You begin the work. The hoe digs into the soil, turning it over, breaking clumps, pulling weeds that sprouted during the flood. Each swing strains your arms, each step presses the ache deeper into your legs. The sun rises higher, and with it, the warmth presses close. Sweat gathers on your brow, stings your eyes, runs in thin lines down your back. The soil, damp in the morning, dries quickly under the sun's gaze, clinging to your sandals, coating your hands. The hours stretch endlessly, the rhythm of labor broken only by brief pauses. You drink from a jar of water, its clay cool against your lips, the liquid warm but refreshing. You share a glance with a neighbor, no words, just an understanding, a silent exchange of fatigue and endurance. Together, you return to the rhythm, bending, lifting, pulling, striking. By midday, the sun is merciless. Its heat presses down, turning the fields into a shimmering expanse, the horizon wavering in waves of light. Your clothes cling to your skin, damp with sweat. Flies buzz persistently, landing on your arms, your face, your legs, no matter how often you swat them away. The Nile, though close, feels distant in its promise of coolness. There is no escape, only endurance. You break for a meal, sitting beneath the shade of a palm at the edge of the field. Bread again, dipped into oil, chased with a swallow of beer, sour but filling. The others eat beside you, their faces tired, silent. One hums softly under his breath, a rhythmless tune, perhaps to keep his mind from the weight of silence. Another chews slowly, staring at the ground as though it holds answers. You chew, too, each bite heavy, but necessary, fuel to continue. The afternoon stretches on. The body grows numb, moving almost without thought, each motion repeating the one before. Hoe strikes soil, hands pull weeds, feet shift, step by step, the cycle continuing. Time loses meaning, measured only in the sun's progress across the sky, in the shadows lengthening slowly behind you. When the day finally wanes, the relief is almost overwhelming. You straighten, stretching a back bent 4 hours, every muscle screaming, every joint stiff. The tools are heavy in your hands, heavier than they were in the morning. You gather them, sling them across your shoulders, and begin the slow walk home. The village greets you with its familiar sounds, the bleating of goats, the chatter of women preparing evening meals, the laughter of children who seem tireless even at dusk. The scent of cooking drifts through the air, onions sizzling, bread baking. Your body aches too much to join in the chatter, but the warmth of home pulls you forward. Dinner is simple once again, lentils thickened into a stew, bread torn into pieces and dipped. You eat slowly, savoring each bite not for its flavor, but for its comfort. Around you, voices rise, neighbors speaking of irrigation, of tools, of the coming days. The festival is no longer mentioned, already. It is behind you, folded back into memory. Night falls, stars glittering above once more. You stretch out on the mat, the ache of labor still heavy in your bones. The body protests, but the mind accepts. This is life, unchanging, reliable in its repetition. Joy may come, bright and fleeting, but work is the constant, the thread that binds each day to the next. Your eyes grow heavy, the sounds of the village softening around you. In the quiet, you feel the earth beneath you, the eternal rhythm that carries you forward. Tomorrow will be the same, the day after, too. And yet, you will rise, you will labor, you will endure, because that is what life demands, and that is how life continues. You close your eyes, letting the weariness pull you down into sleep, knowing that the Nile will rise again, that the fields will call, and that you will answer, always. The day begins not with you alone, but with the murmurs of life all around. The voices of children, half asleep and restless, the quiet stirring of your partner at your side, the faint clink of pottery as someone in the household rises early to fetch water. Even before you open your eyes, you know the rhythm of this place, the way mornings weave themselves out of countless small tasks. Life in the home is not separate from labor in the fields. They are threads in the same cloth, and together they form the fabric of your survival. The air inside the mud brick house is cool at dawn, shadows stretching long across the packed earth floor. The smell of smoke lingers from the hearth, where ashes glow faintly, coaxed back to life with careful breaths. A clay jar of water sits in the corner, its rounded sides beaded with moisture from the night air, a treasure more precious than gold. A woven reed basket holds bread baked the evening before, its crust hard, its smell faint but comforting. These small details to bread, water, fire are the anchors of every day, and without them, the fields would mean nothing. You rise slowly, rubbing the sleep from your eyes, feeling the stiffness in your body ease with movement. A child stirs nearby, rolling over with a soft sigh. Their hair is tousled, their face smudged faintly with dust, yet their sleep is peaceful. You smile faintly before stepping quietly outside, leaving them to their dreams for a little longer. The sky is pale, streaked with the first blush of morning light. Around you, other homes come to life. Women emerge with clay jars balanced on their hips, heading toward the river or to the nearest well. Their voices float on the air, soft laughter mingling with the slap of sandals on the dusty ground. Men stretch their backs, gathering tools, tying scraps of cloth to their heads to shield from the sun. Children chase one another through the narrow alleys, their laughter bright and quick, until a parent calls them back with a sharp word. You join in the flow, your own jar heavy in your hands as you walk toward the river. The Nile greets you as it always does, its waters gleaming in the morning light, reeds swaying gently at its edge. You dip the jar into the current, the cool water rushing in, swirling, filling the vessel with life. The weight is familiar as you lift it, balancing it carefully as you walk back. Around you, others do the same, a procession of daily necessity, repeated endlessly, yet somehow comforting in its sameness. Back at home, The household stirs fully awake. Bread is broken, dipped into oil or beer, shared among all. The children eat quickly, crumbs scattering, their chatter filling the air. They will have tasks of their own soon, carrying water, gathering reeds, tending animals, for even the youngest contributes what they can. There is no room for idleness here. Every hand, no matter how small, is part of the balance that sustains the family. After the meal, you turn to the fields once more, tools slung across your shoulder. Your partner remains behind, tending to the hearth, grinding grain into flour with a stone quern, her hands moving in steady rhythm. The sound of stone against stone echoes softly, a heartbeat of the household. Flour gathers in the basin, fine and pale, ready to be baked into the bread that will carry you through another day. Smoke curls from the oven outside, clay walls glowing faintly with heat as loaves bake slowly within. The scent drifts through the air, mingling with the hum of insects and the distant cry of birds. The children are not idle either. One gathers reeds by the riverbank, his small hands cutting stalks that will be woven into mats or baskets. Another tends to the goats, shooing them from wandering too far, her laughter ringing out as she calls them back. A toddler clings to his mother's side, tugging at her dress, watching her hands move, as though trying to learn by sight alone. Their tasks are small, but in their smallness lies necessity. A mat to sleep on, a basket to hold grain, an animal kept safe from straying. Each is a thread in the wider tapestry of life. By midday, when the sun is high and harsh, the household finds moments of rest. In the shade of the mud brick walls, children nap, their breaths slow and even. Your partner sits with other women nearby, weaving reeds into tight, intricate patterns, their fingers deft, their voices soft. They speak of harvests, of neighbors, of children, their words weaving stories as carefully as their hands weave mats. Community lives in these small gatherings, in the exchange of laughter and advice, in the comfort of shared burdens. Later, when you return from the fields, weary and sweat-stained, the home greets you with its quiet strength. The hearth burns again, a pot of stew bubbling gently, lentils and onions simmering in fragrant steam. Your partner stirs it slowly, humming under her breath, while the children cluster close, eager for the evening meal. You set down your tools, stretch your aching limbs, and take a place near the fire. The warmth seeps into you, not just from the flames, but from the nearness of those around you, from the sense of belonging that makes the harshness of labor bearable. The meal is shared with little ceremony, but great meaning. Bread is torn and passed, stew ladled into bowls, water poured carefully from the jar. Voices rise as stories are told, a child's mischief by the river, a neighbor's good harvest, the sighting of a heron overhead. Laughter breaks the weariness, if only for a moment, and the bonds between you grow stronger with each shared word. As darkness falls, the children drift to sleep, one by one, curled on mats, their soft breathing filling the room. The hearth glows low, embers crackling gently. You and your partner sit close, speaking in hushed tones, your words weaving dreams of tomorrow. Perhaps you speak of the fields, of the work yet to come. Perhaps you speak of the children, of their futures, of the hope that they will know lives of plenty. Or perhaps you sit in silence, comforted by the presence of another soul who shares this life with you. The night deepens, stars shining bright above. You lie down once more, the reed mat pressing into your back, the air cool and still. The sounds of the household surround you, the sigh of a child, the rustle of fabric, the distant call of an owl. These are the sounds of home, the sounds of life persisting, steady and sure. You close your eyes, the weight of the day pressing down, but in that weight there is also peace. For though the work is endless, though the days are long and the nights short, you are not alone. The home, the family, the community, they are your strength, your comfort, your reason. In them lies resilience, in them lies hope, in them lies the quiet beauty of survival. And as sleep takes you, you know that tomorrow will bring the same tasks, the same rhythms, the same endless cycle. But it will also bring the same warmth, the same bonds, the same steady heartbeat of a life shared with others. The sun rises slowly over the horizon, painting the river and mud brick homes in soft gold. You step outside, feeling the cool morning breeze against your skin, carrying the earthy scent of the Nile and the faint aroma of bread from neighboring homes. Life in the village is already stirring. There is a rhythm here that extends beyond your own household, a pulse felt in every footstep, every whispered greeting, every careful movement through the narrow streets. Neighbors pass by with jars of water balanced on their heads, their movements practiced and effortless. Children run barefoot across the packed earth, squealing as they chase one another, laughter mingling with the low bleating of goats and the crowing of roosters. The village is alive in the quietest of ways, its activity a symphony of survival. You are a part of it, and it feels good to belong, to move among these familiar faces who, like you, work tirelessly to keep their families fed and their homes intact. You join a small group heading toward the river to wash clothes and fetch water. The Nile shimmers beneath the morning sun, reflecting the blue of the sky and the green of the papyrus along its banks. As you kneel by the water's edge, you notice the subtle differences between households, the size of jars, the weave of mats, the carefully stacked piles of reeds. Even in these small details, there is pride, a quiet competition, a shared understanding that everyone contributes to the collective well-being of the village. While washing the linen, your hands immersed in the flowing water, you watch others at work. One woman scours her garments with rhythmic strokes, sending tiny splashes into the air, droplets catching the sunlight like tiny jewels. A man scrapes the hull of a small wooden boat, preparing it for travel downriver. Children wade at the water's edge, giggling as they chase frogs and skip smooth stones, their bare feet sending ripples across the surface. The world feels intimate here, yet vast, alive with countless small dramas unfolding simultaneously. The day stretches on, and you move from task to task, each one blending seamlessly into the next. You gather reeds along the riverbank, the stalks tall and fragrant in your hands, to be woven into mats or used to repair the roofs of homes. The work is steady, the repetitive motion soothing. As you weave the first stalks together, your fingers learn the familiar rhythm, moving almost without thought. Yet even in these small labors, you feel the importance of your actions. Every mat, every basket, every repaired roof protects someone, supports someone, contributes to the life of the village. Later, you are called to the communal granary. The grain is measured, weighed, and stored with meticulous care. Villagers come in turns, bringing their portion from the fields or receiving a share for the day's meal. You help lift the heavy sacks, feeling the grain shift beneath your hands, smelling its earthy, slightly sweet aroma. The granary is not only a storehouse, it is a lifeline, a symbol of collective effort and shared responsibility. Each kernel represents hours of labor, sweat, and hope, and handling it, you feel part of something larger than yourself. Between tasks, there are moments of conversation, laughter, and small exchanges of kindness. You speak with a neighbor about the weather, about crops, about family. She mentions her youngest child, how he has begun to imitate her weaving, pressing reeds together with the concentration of a little scholar. A man nearby tells you about a dispute over grazing land, resolved peacefully through discussion. In these interactions, the village breathes, thrives, and survives. There is no grand ceremony or pomp, only the quiet, steady rhythms of cooperation and care. By midday, the sun is high and merciless. Sweat glistens on your brow as you rest in the shade of a mud brick wall, sipping water and feeling the warmth soak into your skin. Around you, others do the same, sharing small pieces of bread, wiping dust from their foreheads, exchanging stories in soft voices. You watch children running errands for their parents, carrying water or helping with the animals, learning the unspoken rules of the village and the skills they will need to sustain their own households one day. The afternoon is marked by communal labor. Villagers gather to repair a shared irrigation channel, ensuring that water flows evenly to every field. You join in, hands digging into the packed earth, muscles straining under the rhythm of work. The sound of shovels, the splash of water, and the murmur of voices combine into a steady hum, a testament to shared effort. Each stone laid, each channel cleared, each small adjustment strengthens the community's bond, reinforcing the understanding that survival here is never solitary. Occasionally, a traveler or trader passes through the village. You watch as they move along the main path, their camels laden with goods. Coins are exchanged, gifts are shared, and news flows in from distant towns. These encounters remind you that your village exists within a wider world, connected through commerce, stories, and relationships. Yet even as you acknowledge these broader connections, your focus returns to the people around you, the neighbors who sweat beside you, laugh with you, and share the quiet burdens of daily life. As afternoon fades to evening, families begin to return home. The village quiets, but not entirely. The clatter of cooking pots, the murmur of voices, and the occasional bray of a donkey fill the air. Smoke curls lazily from hearths, carrying the aroma of lentils, onions, fish, or small game, mingling with the scent of fresh bread, still warm from the communal ovens. You move through this familiar scene, delivering a basket of reeds to a neighbor, exchanging a nod with someone repairing a roof, pausing to speak to a child who runs to greet you. These small gestures, repeated daily, create a web of trust and interdependence. By nightfall, the village is bathed in soft golden light from oil lamps flickering in doorways. Families gather for their evening meals, children listen to stories of gods and ancestors, and the older villagers sit quietly, reflecting on the day. You return home, feeling the satisfaction of work completed, the comfort of belonging, and the deep, unspoken bond that links you to every person you see. Life here is not easy, but it is lived with care, intention, and mutual support. As darkness settles fully, you prepare for bed. Your body aches from labor, but your spirit is steady, nurtured by the knowledge that you are part of something enduring. The sounds of the night filter through the village, the distant howl of a jackal, the rustle of leaves, the soft breathing of children. Your partner beside you, children asleep on mats, and the faint glow of embers from the hearth create a cocoon of warmth and security. Before sleep claims you completely, you pause to appreciate this life, its simplicity and complexity intertwined. You consider the hands that have helped, the voices that have guided, the neighbors who have shared both burdens and joys. In this interconnectedness, there is strength. In this rhythm, there is peace. And in this quiet moment, as you close your eyes, you feel the pulse of the village beneath you, steady and enduring, a heartbeat that will carry you safely into the dawn of another day. And as you drift towards sleep, you are reminded that tomorrow will bring more labor, more laughter, more quiet challenges, and more moments of shared humanity. The village, with all its small details and interconnected lives, remains a sanctuary of resilience. Here, in the shadow of the Nile and among the mud brick homes, survival is never solitary, and life, though harsh, is endlessly rich with connection. The night deepens, you breathe slowly, feeling the day's exertion settle into your muscles. The steady rhythm of the river reaches you even here, a gentle lullaby. Tomorrow will come, as it always does, but for now, the world is quiet, soft, and safe. And with that, you allow yourself to surrender fully to sleep, carried gently by the familiar sounds of home and community, enveloped in the enduring warmth of a life shared, sustained, and deeply felt. The morning light spreads slowly across the village, soft and golden, painting every mud brick wall, reed mat, and stretch of earth with a quiet warmth. You wake to the subtle hum of life already moving around you, the distant clatter of pots, the low bleating of goats, and the occasional bird calling from a papyrus stalk. The village is alive, and you are part of this steady rhythm, every movement and breath connected to the pulse of those around you. You rise from your mat, stretching your arms and legs, feeling the slight stiffness from yesterday's work, and inhale deeply the scent of the earth and the faint aroma of bread from your neighbor's oven. Each day begins in this way, gently, almost imperceptibly, a soft awakening that prepares you for the tasks ahead. You take a moment to notice the small details, the smooth stones underfoot, the warm sun on your skin, the shimmer of the river in the distance, and the subtle sway of the palm fronds in the morning breeze. Your first task is the river, as always. You walk the familiar path, feeling the uneven ground beneath your feet, the dry dust of the road rising softly with each step. The water glints in the early sunlight, and as you kneel to dip your hands in, the cool liquid flows over your fingers, awakening your senses. Washing clothes, gathering water, or mending small tools, each action is performed with care, each movement deliberate, as if the rhythm of your body mirrors the rhythm of the river itself. As you work, neighbors pass by, carrying their own vessels and bundles, exchanging greetings and smiles. You stop to chat briefly with an older woman, sharing a laugh over a child's mischief, before continuing your own work. These moments, fleeting though they may seem, form the tapestry of life here. They are the small threads of connection that hold the village together, creating bonds that are invisible yet unbreakable, delicate yet enduring. The sun rises higher, warming your back and highlighting the fine lines of dust and sweat on your face. You make your way to the communal granary, where villagers bring in fresh grain and collect their daily portions. The air smells of earth, grain, and straw, mingling into a scent that is at once grounding and comforting. As you lift and move sacks of grain, feeling their weight settle into your arms, you are reminded that each kernel represents effort, patience, and hope. It is a quiet reminder that life is built slowly, one careful step at a time, yet every contribution matters, no matter how small. Around midday, the village pauses in its activities. Children play near the homes, their laughter carrying softly across the streets, while others help tend animals or fetch water. Women exchange quiet conversation as they prepare meals, kneading dough, chopping vegetables, or roasting fish. Men repair tools, adjust fences, or care for livestock, each motion deliberate and practiced. You move through this scene, aware of the intricate balance between work, rest, and care. Every hand and voice contributes to a shared purpose, survival, sustenance, and the maintenance of life in harmony with the world around you. You join a small group repairing a section of the irrigation channels, feeling the damp mud beneath your fingernails and the cool water splashing against your legs. The work is steady and methodical, a combination of physical exertion and attentive observation. The channel, though narrow, carries the promise of life to the fields, ensuring that crops will grow and families will eat. You feel a sense of satisfaction in this labor, knowing that your efforts ripple outward, sustaining more than just yourself. As afternoon arrives, shadows stretch long across the village, softening the edges of the homes and streets. You pause in the shade of a tall mud brick wall, breathing deeply and allowing the warmth of the day to settle into your body. Children return from errands or play, bringing fresh laughter and chatter, while elders sit quietly, observing the ebb and flow of life with patient eyes. The village is a living organism, each member a vital part of its pulse, each interaction contributing to the delicate balance of existence. Later, you gather reeds and straw to repair your roof and weave baskets for household use. The rhythm of weaving is meditative, your fingers moving with practiced ease as you interlace fibers, creating both function and beauty. Around you, other villagers perform similar tasks, repairing homes, tending gardens, feeding animals, and preparing for the night. There is a shared sense of purpose, a collective understanding that each action, no matter how small, fortifies the life of the community. As the sun begins its descent, the village softens into evening. The sky is painted with hues of amber and rose, and the warm glow falls across mud brick walls and river waters alike. Families gather for their evening meals, the aroma of cooking filling the air and mingling with the dust of the earth. You sit with your household, breaking bread, sharing small portions of vegetables, grains, and fish, feeling the quiet comfort of shared nourishment. Conversation flows softly, stories and guidance exchanged in low voices, laughter punctuating the calm. Night falls fully, and oil lamps are lit, their flames flickering against walls, casting gentle shadows across the rooms. Children are guided to their mats, lulled into sleep by the sound of soft voices and the warmth of their family. You move through the home, finishing small chores, ensuring that everything is in order, that each corner of the house holds safety and comfort for those within. The village outside slows, the once busy streets quieting, the animals settling, the distant river murmuring gently as if in lullaby. As you finally lay down, the day's exertions settling into your muscles, you pause to reflect. The sun, the river, the work, the laughter, the shared meals, the stories, all of these pieces combine into the pattern of life here. You are part of this pattern, and it is a pattern of resilience, care, and interconnectedness. Life is hard, yes, yet it is rich, and every challenge met together reinforces bonds that are strong and enduring. In these final moments before sleep, you allow yourself to fully absorb the sounds, smells, and textures of your environment. The distant murmur of water, the soft rustle of reeds, the occasional call of a night bird, each a note in the symphony of the village night. Your body relaxes, your breath slows, and the pulse of life around you lulls you gently toward rest. Before you close your eyes completely, take a deep breath and feel gratitude for the life you have experienced today, for the hands that helped, the voices that guided, and the neighbors who shared both burdens and joys. The Nile flows steadily beyond the village, carrying the promise of tomorrow, of work to be done, of meals to be shared, of children to be guided, of life to be lived with intention and care. And now, as the darkness deepens, the village settles, and your body sinks into rest, I invite you, if you enjoyed this journey, to leave a like, comment where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you, and subscribe if you'd like to join me for more explorations into history and human life. Your presence, your curiosity, and your engagement help this space grow, bringing these immersive journeys to life for all who seek them. Good night. Allow the calm of ancient Egypt to envelop you, the soft rhythm of village life to cradle your mind, and the enduring pulse of the Nile to carry you gently into sleep. Dream of shared meals, flowing waters, golden fields, and the quiet strength of community. Sleep now, peacefully, knowing that tomorrow will come, and with it, another day to witness, experience, and honor the rhythms of life that have endured for millennia.